This is a video just to show a quick example of creating an ad hoc task system. So as you look at the screen here, I'm in the ServiceNow portal. I've got a couple sample records I've put in here. But the first thing I did was I went ahead and created a table, or I actually extended a table in ServiceNow so that I could just feed ad hoc tasks in here. So let me show you that real quick. So I'm just searching for table up here in the search bar. Go into tables, and then here I've got a query that I use just to get to the table. So I've created this Wells ad hoc tasks table, and all I did was inherit from the built-in task table. So there's a lot of fields here that frankly you'd probably get rid of a lot of these. You wouldn't need these, but just put them in here just to do a quick example. So created a table, so it's a totally separate table from the core task table, and that'll ultimately create a form that we can populate this with. But in addition to that, it creates, or we can create web services against that. So before I do that, I'll just go in here real quick and show you. We've got this Wells ad hoc tasks menu option, and then Wells ad hoc tasks. This all automatically gets created when you create that table. So it'll give you this list view. You can alter the list view and include whatever you want as far as fields. And again, these fields are just part of the built-in task table that I inherited from, but you could change all of this. And then up here, if you wanted to create a new one, a new ad hoc task, you could do it through a form interface like this, which, this is completely configurable. So if I were to go in here and go to personalize and go to form layout, you'll see that all the fields that I've got in here I can add or show on the form if I want to. In this case, I haven't. I've just took a few of them off of there since it's just a simple ad hoc example. And so that's all it takes. It's like literally a couple minutes, and you've got a table with a form stood up that lets you collect ad hoc task information. So in our example, what I did was I figured, all right, we're going to have some external systems feeding ad hoc tasks into ServiceNow. So that's the context for this particular example. So what we can do is in the system, we have this web services section here, and you can create web services against any tables that you create in the system. So you can see down here that I've created this Wells ad hoc task web service, and go ahead and click on that, and you can see all of the fields that I've defined as inputs to the web service. So I actually truncated this list a good bit, so you don't have to pass in. You really don't have to pass in any of this stuff, but just made it relatively simple. And then up here, once you generate the service, so it's all doable through this interface, very quick and easy to do. It'll give you the WSDL, and then the WSDL will define your inputs. Now these are all optional, and you have control over all of this. So if you wanted to mandate stuff, control what can be passed in, enumerations, all that, you can do all that. For this example, I didn't sweat it. I just made it real simple. But so there's the WSDL, and so at this point, we now have exposed our ad hoc task table as a web service that can be fed from any system that's able to call a web service. So now what I'll do is switch over to SOAP UI. So here's the SOAP UI interface. And you can see in this request, all I'm doing here is passing a couple of basic pieces of information. The task is active, and I'm putting in a short description. Now I could do much more than that if I wanted to, or pass in more than that. I'm just keeping it as simple as possible. So maybe this is a, I need a new server, something like that. I'll go ahead and execute the request. So now it's talking to the ServiceNow instance, and you can see here's the result we got back over on the right hand side. It's created our new number. It's been inserted. And if I switch back over to ServiceNow and I go to ad hoc tasks, now what we see here, right there at the bottom, is a task that was just created through that web service call. So again, I'm keeping this really simple. I'm happy to dive into this deeper live. But anyhow, this is passed in and now created a task. From here, and so what we've done is we've assigned it to the administrator. Then we want the administrator to have the ability to create or spawn other tasks from this task. And so at the bottom down here, you'll notice that there's this additional task section. I can say, well, I want to create a new task, And this is a pretty neat feature of ServiceNow here. I'm showing everything from a task perspective that is creatable, and there's a lot of different task types. These are all configurable, so you can remove them from the list or change them. But as you can see, there are many different task types. So you may have this ad hoc task come in and decide, oh, well, this is actually a defect, or this is an enhancement, or this is a KB, or whatever it might be. And all those task types are available to you, and you can create tasks of those types, which will then be related back to that ad hoc task. For our example, I'll just create another Wells task that's going to relate to that parent task. I'll assign it to Jane Worker. And we'll just say, you know, please check on server specs and verify, something like that. So it's ad hoc, so this could be anything. I'll leave everything else alone. I'll say this is work in progress. I'll set the priority to moderate. I'll submit it. And now we're going back, and you see here's the parent task that we were on, but at the bottom now we've created this child task that's associated to the parent task. So I'm not doing much with workflow here. You certainly could. So each of these tasks you can hook workflow to. And I'll do a number of other workflow videos. But from an ad hoc task perspective, really easy to just stand up quickly an ad hoc interface, expose a web service for it, and then create related tasks.